Tell me, what is the power behind spoken word?
Stories throughout history have been the carriers of connection and wisdom, right? They're the stories have brought people together, and they have brought knowledge forwards. And we live in a world where stories they're kind of everywhere, but they're kind of very two-dimensional on screens and stuff, and we've kind of lost the connection with real people. And what I think spoken word does, on one level, is it brings us back to real people, real voices, real stories, and truth. And the other powerful thing about spoken word is it came from a movement of marginalized voices, right? It's a rising up. It's taken something which is and always has been, like literature has always belonged to the elite. It's belonged to the people who have had the education to be able to be literarily advanced.
It was illegal hundreds of years ago to read or reproduce the works of, like, the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, it was illegal. It was to control and for the elites.
It was only for the scribes.
Yeah.
And so it was really, unless you were within the money in the church, you couldn't have access to language within the kind of, within my culture anyway. And I think from what spoken word does is it takes something that has been so restrained to the elite. Even now, I mean, like, we say, oh, it's not for the elite, but like, we're in a very small population of the planet who's actually been educated enough to be able to read and write.
Oh, 100%. And even financially, we are the elite.
Yeah,
worldwide,
exactly.
on a worldwide level, 1%.
And so what it does is it takes something which has always belonged to the elite, and it gives it to the folk, to the people who, if you can speak, even if you speak with sign language, I've been to spoken word sign language events, right? If you can speak, you can have a voice, and you can be a poet, you can be a spoken word artist, and therefore what we get is the unheard stories, the untold stories. We get people from the LGBTQI plus community, we get people of colour, we get disabled people, we get whoever it is. It's people who have been, we get women, we get men talking about their emotions and their feelings. Whatever part of you that has been marginalised, whatever part of you that has been pushed down has a space and a voice, and in this world that is needed, and it's powerful.
I agree. I think a good example of this, which isn't spoken word, but it's very much to the similar ideas, is Humans of New York. Just telling people stories, random people on the street. Because, like you say, stories that we read are normally stories of fictional heroes or non-fictional heroes. Kind of, really. You don't just hear somebody tell their true story of their life, and a lot of people there's probably a lot of things to be learnt from people that that may have had a tough life and may have ended up on the wrong side of the tracks and may be in a compromised position, because, there's always wisdom there, I feel like. So, yeah, I get it. I like it.
Have you seen the TEDx talk by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie called The Danger of a Single Story?
No.
So that's another reason why I think spoken word is powerful, because what she talks about in that TEDx is that when we only hear one story of a type of a person, and when I talk about person, I mean almost like a stereotype of a person, then we begin to put everybody into that box, and there's a danger in that. And what's so beautiful about spoken word is we become our own representation in a culture that doesn't necessarily represent us. So me as a queer woman, I don't necessarily get represented as myself in the media around me, right?
Yeah.
So what it does is it gives a place for us to begin to represent ourselves. And we actually, so when I stand on stage and tell my story, other women who are in the audience who maybe identify as queer or identify as being a solo mum or maybe identify as being a poet or an artist or whatever their thing is that they see in me, they see themselves for a moment, and they get permission. They get permission to be more themselves in this world, to show up more fully as themselves. And I think because we have this power of access to media that we didn't have 20 years ago, we have the capacity to actually start to reframe what is being represented, who is being represented, and spoken word, especially in like social media now, because it's short 3-minute often. They're 3-minute video poems which you can put into a video, and that is so consumable and it's so easy to take in. But we can actually put our stories out in the world in a way that is completely consumable and compelling and true for people. 100%.
And people are probably refreshed to hear new stories, new fresh ideas, because when you talk about actual narratives, I think they say that there's, and I was reading about this because I've stumbled upon it the last few months, is like narratives that you hear in any real story, fictional story, there's like six stories that they all fit into. boy and girl hero, the hero story, coming back from turmoil or whatever. There's basically like six narratives, and that's every single movie can be and book that's been written can be kind of shoved into those six narratives. But that's not real life, you know. That's like what people get entertained by. But it's pretty entertaining to hear, you know, real stories of actual real life. You would actually really enjoy that's a weird way to say it. You would really vibe with my housemate Alana. She just put on a show at the Fringe Festival in Melbourne. It was called Julia, a Lesbian, and she's queer. She actually taught me about LGBTQ because I didn't know it was. I was always saying LGBT. She's like LGBTQ. You just said an I and a plus.
It's an I plus, yeah.
Right.
So
I just can't keep up with the times. I am literally falling behind. I think that I'm going good, and then I'm behind already. But
so I is intersex people.
Gotcha.
And then plus is people like asexual, pansexual.
Gotcha. I learned about asexual the other day too on a Netflix thing. She actually had a play, Julia, a Lesbian, and it was a queer play. She was the director, and Natalie, who was living with me at the time as well, she was from Chile. She came over and she played Julia. It's a one-woman show. And it was really great because she, Alana, is very, very much similar to, actually dissimilar to you, and she loves theatre. You know, that's what she lives and breathes it.
I do love theatre. I'm not just going to say that. I do love theatre.
Well, you ragged it out pretty bad before, let's be honest.
It was the world around it when I was growing up.
We'll cut that part out as well. But she feels like she's queer, and she feels like, you know, her story doesn't get told. So that's why she wanted to, she wanted to tell the story of Julia, a lesbian, and get entertaining and fun and consumable for LGBTQI plus regular, you know, like straight people, young and old, you know, whatever, like for all people. So for that same reason, like to get that story out there.
It's also the power of normalizing. So, I mean, Netflix, you mentioned Netflix. Netflix is doing it really well.
I apologise because I just said normal people, I think, when I was referring to the not LGBTQI, and I didn't mean that. So,
heteronormative.
yeah.
So Netflix, what they are doing is they have, in a lot of their shows, I've noticed, is they'll have characters who are, for example, trans or queer or whatever, and they're having them as, they're just a character in there. It's not an issue. It's not an issue about them. So in the OA, I don't know if you've seen the OA.
No.
There's it's a great. I really
loved
it.
Seen the OC. Is it OC? No, I'm just joking. I haven't seen it. But yeah, go on.
The OA is, I really liked it, but there's a character in it who happens to be a trans boy, and you don't know that really. He's just there, and then at one point he goes home, and I think it's his dad refers to him by his dead name, which would be the name that he was before he transitioned, and that's the only real clue that you get. And it's not a big thing. It's just that he's there. And I think that's what we really need to start doing in our society, is actually telling stories, is putting real people into real stories. So rather than like telling stories about the issues of those people, which we need to do as well, but also what about just having some characters, just letting people be people, as well as being a person of color, as well as being queer, as well as being like disabled, as well as being whatever else, emotional, whatever it is. Just having them have like the day-to-day roles in society. And I think that's the other thing about doing spoken word is I might get up there and one of my poems might be about being queer, but one of them might be about, you know, what I like to eat. It could be anything. It could be anything that I'm interested in. And what it does is it breaks that single story, and it actually starts to create people, to make people relatable. It takes down the othering and starts to bring us together as people.
100%. I think the word other, when it's referred to people, is the greatest crime in the history of humanity. You know what I believe in regards to that? I'm like this for one of two things. We find life on another planet, or we get an asteroid hurtling towards Earth and we have to like do Armageddon style, like call NASA, get the rockets, where's Bruce Willis? And we go, we blow, and we save humanity.
Yeah.
We find something else that we can call other, you know, because at the moment, there's still always us and them. You know, we are us, they are them. And until we as humans become us, we are us. I don't know. I think we're so ingrained to think that way that we need something to... The
unification against a common enemy kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Mars attacks. It's just, I think right now, maybe in like hundreds, and it's obviously trending in the right way. Like where you are having this conversation right now, I mean, probably 20 or 30 years ago, like it wouldn't be, you know, you wouldn't have the same probably opportunities. Like it's trending the right way for sure. But yeah, I think if we were to fast track it, we need aliens.
My brain's so like, I'm going, maybe the common enemy could be our inner demons.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking aliens.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.